paying tax incentives for 20 years to move corporations and factories offshore. I mean, they are really trying to screw everything up. They really are bastards.
And the answer, if you have wealth of any kind, you want to be in gold and silver coins. And if you get piles of money, and there are listeners that do, you can also buy gold and silver shares along with that. And that is your only salvation. There is no other, except the rudiments, which is food, a filter, and weapons with plenty of clips and ammo.
I just can't believe it. I mean, Bob, when you call these people idiots, I know why you're saying that, but I mean, tell me if I'm wrong or elaborate. These thugs that are on power trips, that are into how they're macho and into how they're secret agents and get to carry out all this activity with our new domestic spy force, overnight going from we fight Al-Qaeda to we fight gun owners and veterans and people that don't like the Fed. I mean, they've openly announced it. These guys, I don't think they realize that they're going to be set up in the end, too, that they're the first group, when the globalists win, that are going to get set up and put in prison or bare minimum lose their jobs. A lot of them are going to get killed. I mean, I don't understand evil. Because once you get into it, it creates a climate that destroys everything, and then nobody's safe. And don't these dumb yuppies realize that corruption isn't cute? That once the Constitution and Bill of Rights is gone, all the sharks and wolves get to come in and have their way with us, Bob?
They haven't thought that far ahead, and many of them aren't capable of doing so. But I want to tell you something. I do a program once a week, and have for some years, which is all military, for the most part, State Department, and but mostly retired and active military. And I got a letter yesterday, which isn't tomorrow's issue, coming out under the U.S. section, and it's from a Marine. He says there's 25 of us here in New York City who are out of the Corps, but some of us are still active, and we're listening to everything that you put on and trying to help us and stuff like that. But they know what's going on. My newsletter, as far as I know, is the most pirated newsletter in the world. It's all over Washington. It's all over the State Department. I don't know who is doing that and how they're getting it, but they
listen, Bob, it's the radio shows, this show and the hundreds of other shows you do, our books, our films, our DVDs, your newsletter. No, it's everywhere. They're deep in it. So I guess in a way we should celebrate that the NSA's got goons out harassing and arresting and setting people up in 9/11 Truth, because that means they're scared to death of us.
That's right. And we got to keep on doing what we're doing, and you got to keep on supporting us out there and putting the word out that everybody in the country should be listening to Alex, and everybody should be listening to the forecaster. I mean, we've got the forecaster in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the high ranks of the military are going ape, trying to find out how it's getting there.
And by the way, that's not just you saying this. When they ordered Fox Phelan to attack Iran, he said no one resigned. So, I mean, it's really happening.
We're gonna win. It's going to be very painful. And if these people think they're smart telling us what they're doing, that's okay. We don't care. We know what they're doing. We've known for a long time. It just took a lot of people a long time to catch on. And the only reason most of them caught on is because of Alex Jones and people like you with your wonderful programs. So everybody, support the sponsors. Put the word out. Make sure everybody that you know listens to this program.
Webster Tarpley's coming up at 20 after. I said I'd go through the global warming propaganda and just show you what's in the magazines and newspapers, the level of brainwashing. That's coming up. But right now in this segment, the next, let's take your phone calls for Bob Chapman. Let's go ahead and talk to Dan in Texas. You're on the air, Dan. Thanks for holding.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask him about hyperinflation, if he really thinks it's going to hit in the fall.
Yes, I do. And I think one of the keys here that's going to make it hit is that the banks that have been given money by the Federal Reserve, and it's called loans, have been holding them on holding that money on the balance sheet, and what they've been doing with it is either depositing at the Fed, or they've been buying Treasury paper with it. And the Treasury paper purchases as well have been coming from the funds that were received by the banks from the Fed for the purchase of what they call collateralized debt obligations, which are bonds with mortgages inside of them. Now, the Fed has created money out of thin air to do this, and that money becomes monetized once the banks use it. Not the money from the CDOs, being paid for them, but the money that was lent to them. And I think the economy is not going to be recovering adequately by the end of the year. And I think that during the fall, that the banks are going to start using some of that money that's on the balance sheets, and they'll be lending more liberally.
Well, how does the second bailout, Bob, to interrupt, how does the second bailout?
I was just going to say, that leads to my prediction in January that there would be a second bailout. And I said they would start talking about it probably in September. Well, they started a couple of months before. And the next deal I want to get passed is $2 trillion, not $780.
Which under fractional reserve, that'll be $20 trillion.
If they want, yes. And that money will be okayed. When? I don't know. It's in the formative stages. If I had to guess, I'd say September, October, November. And so that money plus the money the banks already have that's been lent to them will be probably starting to go into the economy during the following year. Now, that will begin to start hyperinflation. And the reason they're doing it that way is that next year is an election year. And so they want the economy to be better, and it will be better.
But also, won't all these trillions floating around go into commodities because the currencies aren't safe? That'll further drive up inflation?
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why commodities have been doing what they've been doing. Have you watched oil as an example? In 8 out of 10 days it went down from $70 to $60 a barrel. That's not normal. That's your government at work.
Yeah, that's why we're seeing all this.
The program they gave to Goldman Sachs. That's your government at work, rigging everything.
So you disagree with George Humphrey?
America anymore.
You disagree with George Humphrey? He says that there may be inflation, hyperinflation, but he thinks it's like a long stagnation, like Japan, with certain things going up, but overall not. Either way, it's horrible. All right, Bob, stay there. Let's take a few more phone calls. Hope that answered your question, caller. The good old folks at New Silver Solution. And the website is supernaturalsilver.com. Supernaturalsilver.com. This is something that kills bacteria, viruses, you name it, well documented. They've got it down to a super small, nano-sized particle. Supernaturalsilver.com. Check them out at Infowars.com. Bob Chapman and I, during breaks, talking about nice third world countries to live in, Man, to watch our country overrun by parasites, and the republic really is falling. Bob, if they pass the second stimulus, which is really letting the federal government give all its power to the private Federal Reserve, and the global greenhouse tax, and the federalization of all the water, and the hate speech laws, and they're really trying to pass everything right now, and they're getting most of it. Would you say the republic had fallen if they're able to ram through all of this?
Yes, I think you're right. They're doing anything they can to do that. The only thing I saw today that surprised me is 2 former members of the Federal Reserve said, no, you shouldn't give them all those things to do or all those powers. And I was really surprised at that. Both these men were in mid-80s, and I said to my assistant, I said, these are the guys who have taken from the system, been involved with the Illuminati all their lives, lived fat and happy, and now they're at their end of their days. They know they can't take it with them, and they're telling the truth.
Yeah, that happens a lot to people that want to keep their soul. At the end, they finally get true wisdom. Well,
I just saw 2 of them this morning.
Are you saying that's in the news or that's an inside piece?
No, it's in the news. It's in the news. One's Taylor and the other is Chapman. Well, listen. I have Bloomberg a couple months ago with in fact, we can search this and get the actual headline, with a current, it was a Dallas Fed board member saying, New York's running everything. They've hijacked the country. They've declared the war powers. In fact, that was the Bloomberg headline. Fed chief, New York Fed using war powers. And so, I mean, I guess it's so centralized now because it's so criminal that maybe people in the Fed that aren't involved in the total criminality are hedging their bets, kind of going, I'm not with them. I think you're right. And I think they're fearful for their families.